Make sure my phone's turned off.
All right. It says that we are streaming, although I don't see my fancy window yet. So, so bear with me for a minute.
Oh, meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Right. I'm getting this too. That's good.
Although I don't. Okay, I have to mute that page. Okay. Yes, we are. We are here. Woo! All right. Let me find my control room now. All right. This is not made for kids. Definitely not made for kids. Oh my goodness. No, we'll try to keep it. We'll try to keep it kid friendly, right? All right. So, welcome, you guys. Welcome to the first live interviews of 2021. Very exciting, super exciting. As you know, we do these interviews with some super cool people who are involved with wildlife in a variety of ways. And we have been doing this for, well, it's working on a year now. It's been since the pandemic started. So this is our pandemic fun, if you will. And tonight we are super excited to bring in some really fun people who are related to a super fun organization. So tonight we have the Sky Valley Volunteers and their leaders, John Luker and Wendi Gladstone. Welcome, you guys.
Hi, everybody.
All right. So, yeah, so, you know, I had these little bios that I got online, but, you know, if you could each like just give us a quick introduction, that would be awesome.
Wendi, go for it.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Wendi Gladstone. Let's see, introductions. I live in Chatsworth. I've been involved in environmental education since the 80s. Doing environmental work is a passion of mine. I've branched out. I'm getting involved in more organizations environmentally, and I'm very excited to be here tonight to share the evening with you.
Nice, nice. Welcome, welcome. All right, John, it's your turn.
Yeah, my name's John Luker. I'm a troublemaker. Originally, I was the Venice Beach juggler back in the 1970s. That's one of my great claims to fame. Then I went to work in the motion industry as a man for 35 years. Through that job, I did a documentary about the Santa Susana Field Laboratory. That was 16 years ago, and the project kind of changed my life. I used to say that I was one of the lead activists on the Rocketdyne project, but I don't like the term activist anymore. It gives you a picture of someone who yells and screams a lot, and that's pretty much it. I am a naturalist now. I work with natural systems. I restore habitat. I worked for state parks for 8 years in the resources department under a brilliant woman named Suzanne Good. She was the leading environmental scientist for the state parks in the Santa Monica Mountains for, God, 30 years. Anyway, she was sort of my mentor and professor, and working for them when I went to work putting together the Sky Valley Volunteers and doing habitat restoration.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Well, I happen to know you guys from real life and all sorts of various volunteer endeavors, and I am super excited to have you here on our Taringa program tonight. So again, just thank you for making the time. So usually this is sort of an unrehearsed kind of crazy conversation that we never really know which way it's gonna go. But tonight you guys have created a super cool presentation, and I am really excited to see it. So what we're going to do is watch and hear your presentation, and then we'll have time for some questions and answers after. And I'll have some, and hopefully the audience will have some as well. So with that, I will turn it over to you, John.
Okay, let me get the share screen thing up here. And here we are. Okay, thank you, Dana, for the marvelous introduction. My name's John Luker. I'm the president of Save Chatsworth Incorporated. We're a 501c3, so donations to us are tax deductible. Wendi Gladstone is my partner in crime. She is the president of the Santa Susana Mountain Park Association. They are a 501c4. They do political activity, and we do stuff that people can get a tax deduction for. The two of us are partners in the Sky Valley Volunteers. It's a volunteer group of people that goes out planting oak trees, basically. I want to start by talking about the resources in our local mountains here. And I want to start really small, like really small. Pollinators are at the basis of the food chain around here. Everything they do affects everything else above them on the food chain. If it weren't for these bugs, we wouldn't have stuff like this. That's a wild California rose on the left, and those are my favorites, Mariposa lilies on the right. We've got a lot of different plants and wildflowers, and right now, if you go for a hike in the Simi Hills, they're just starting to come out. It's always been amazing to me how something so small takes care of so much out there. Now, these insects have been damaged by climate change, changing weather patterns, drought, also chemicals and other stuff that we as humans release into the atmosphere. Herbicides, pesticides, they all affect these animals. Insect populations are dwindling in North America, bees very precipitously, and things like monarch butterflies, their populations are down by about 90%. It's really remarkable. In any case, you'll note that there is a rich diversity of species here. There is every type of wildflower you can imagine, and all of that forms the basis for habitat. This is where animals live. This is where animals eat. Birds eat seeds from these plants. Gophers eat their roots. Other animals like pack rats make their nests inside these places. This is home, it's a supermarket, it's a condominium, and this is the basis for the next step up in the food chain. Okay, we also have a really rich habitat that's filled with apex predators. You can tell the health of an ecosystem by how many large predators exist in it. Up here, we've got mountain lions, bobcats, bears. We've got lots of coyotes. That's one of our bigger issues, is coexisting with coyotes up here. There's at least 3 different types of owls that are around my neighborhood, plus falcons and raptors. This is a nest that Wendi and I found last year. This is a baby hawk taking its first flight. It just flapped like crazy and it got 10 inches off the nest. In any case, these birds are really healthy, and you can tell the health of the system, the ecosystem they live in, by the fact they're actually here, because they have a steady food supply. As you might think, there are problems. Rodenticides are a huge issue with apex predators. What has traditionally been the way to get rid of ground squirrels and rats is you set up bait boxes with decon in it. The rat or the ground squirrel crawls into the box, eats some decon, crawls out, gets really sick, and in its death throes, it's convulsing on the ground. Meanwhile, mama's up there about 300 feet, and she realizes, wow, there's lunch for my family. So she grabs this dying animal, brings it back home, rips it apart, and gives it to her babies, and what happens from there? Owls are especially hard hit. Coyotes, bobcats, mountain lions, anything that eats something else is likely to eat something that's taken in rodenticides. And of course, at the top of the food chain are these guys. Now, I did not take these pictures, I wish. A good friend of mine took the one on the right. Her name's Joanna Turner. This is where we work. This is up at Sky Valley, or the Santa Susana Field Laboratory. And we have 3 groves of oak trees right next to where these photographs were taken. The thing that's important about this is that mama in the background on the left over there thought this place was cool enough to sit down for 2 years and have 2 litters of kittens. That's one of her children right over there on the left. You can see he's like a dorky teenager. You got that? Now the little kitten over on the left, that photograph was taken by a guy I know named Jeff Sikich. He's the guy that runs the mountain lion program for the National Park Service. He's the guy that anesthetizes, tags, and collars these animals. He's been working up where we work, and when they show up, everything just shuts down. Nobody goes on the property. Whenever they anesthetize a cat to change its collar or tag it, they also give it a complete physical workup, including a complete blood workup. Every mountain lion they've ever tested has trace amounts of rodenticide in it. P22 in Griffith Park had a really hard time. He got a bad case of mange, and they had to bring him in and basically put him in the hospital for a couple of weeks until he recovered. But out in the wild, it's a lot harder to do that. The only reason why P22 gets that treatment is because he's a celebrity. Ain't that the way it works?
Right.
Now, I show this photograph because it's a really cool photograph, and it shows how beautiful these animals are. This is the most important habitat linkage in California. All of the genetic diversity that gets into the Santa Monica Mountains passes through this narrow, mile-wide strip of hills. The core of the work of all our organizations are protecting the future of this mountain. The SSMPA and Save Chatsworth are both devoted in our mission statement to preserve, protect, and restore the Simi Hills. We don't call it a wilderness corridor anymore. Now we call it a habitat linkage. A wilderness corridor, that statement makes it seem like it's a road or a highway or a hallway or something. And that's not the case. This is a habitat linkage. And the reason that it's attractive to animals like this is because they can work, they can live here. They have a steady food supply. Each one of these cats will eat about a deer a week. Okay, there is a steady food supply for a whole family of these animals up here. That gives me some hope for what's going on right now. In any case, you get the idea that a habitat linkage is a place with the habitat that encourages these animals to pass through it. Let's see, where are we at? So we haven't quite gotten to the largest issue that's out here. I said we'd start small and go big. Well, this is about as big as you can get. These trees are the keystone species out here. Over 170 different species of animals, birds, and insects depends on oak trees for their home, for their food supply, for shade, for water. Hawks and birds all live in these branches. Squirrels live up in the trees. Ground squirrels live underneath this. Everything eats acorns, and what doesn't eat acorns is in turn eaten by the hawks and the falcons. So don't think of this as a tree. It's actually more like an apartment building / supermarket. And like I say, this works for over 170 different species of animals. Without these trees, there would be a tremendous drop in the amount of other animals that live in this area. And of course, there's a problem. Wendy?
Yes, thank you, John. Great job. There is a problem. We had a drought. We had a really long drought, and this is what happened to some of the forests up on the mountain. It just dried up there, and over that 7-year period, this is what happened to what used to be a beautiful canopy forest of oak trees. This is only one of the problems. We've had droughts before, but with our extreme heat that we've been experiencing the last few years, it's made things even worse. One of the next big problems is in the next slide. John? It's this little guy, this invasive shot-hole borer. This little guy is what got us our start in Sky Valley, and I'll get to that in a moment. This tiny little bug really is a tiny little bug. If you look on the right side, there is a pen being held next to a hole. Now, this insect is actually no bigger than the tip of a ballpoint pen. Invasive shot-hole borers, how they got here? Very interesting story. Well, they bore into wood. Their natural habitat is in Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, they were making shipping pallets. It came over here and got into California on shipping pallets, actually in the shipping pallet itself. The bug was discovered in 2003 in Whittier Narrows. UC Riverside jumped on it, started doing studies. And we got involved with the studies with the Resource Conservation District, who was assisting the UC Riverside. Now, the life cycle of this insect is kind of interesting. The adults will find a tree that is habitable for them. It's generally a mature tree. In a mature tree, it can bore in, it can create galleries, lay its eggs, have its babies, and then it feeds its babies. The bug is not what kills our trees. The bug makes a fungus that it feeds to its babies, and that's what kills the trees. It's the fungus that our trees cannot handle. The pictures here on the right at the bottom are pictures of where the bugs have bored into trees. There's a hole, and you can see staining. It looks like liquid around the holes, and it's dripped down the side of the tree. The picture on the left shows how tiny some of the holes are that these bugs make, because they themselves are very small. Next slide, John.
Here we are.
So this is how we got involved. In phase 1 of the bug study, we were setting up traps. As I said, we were working with the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains. We were helping the senior conservation biologist, Rosie Daggett, with setting up traps. And we had 14 traps set up around the West San Fernando Valley, all the way from Calabasas, all the way over to Chatsworth, up the hill and into the valley floor. The middle picture shows you what the bug trap looked like. They're homemade. It was one of these 2-liter bottles that we had hanging upside down, a hole cut into that, and a pheromone pack attached on the inside of that. The pheromone would attract the insects. They would go into that bottle. They couldn't hold on to the side. They fell down into the lower bottle, which had a few inches of soapy water in there, and the bug would drown. We changed the water out and collected the bugs every week and took those samples over to the conservation district. So that's how we got started in learning about the bad bugs, and we're involved in the phase 1 study. Now, Rosie, she said, there is a silver lining to all this bad bug stuff. These bugs do not go after saplings. They want the mature wood. That's when John looked at me, he turned to me and he said, we've got to start growing trees. And boom, in that moment, Sky Valley Volunteers was born. The picture on the left shows you a group of our volunteers and Sky Valley. We're on a mountaintop out at the Santa Susana Field Lab buffer zone, and we are overlooking the San Fernando Valley. Is that incredible or what? This is our office. We feel so fortunate. The picture on the right is we're preparing to plant a tree. The woman in the vest is a Native American monitor. Up there at the Santa Susana Field Lab site, there's a lot of archaeology, and we don't want to disturb any of that. So we always have a Native American monitor with us when we're doing the planting up at the Field Lab site. And so they are observing where they've been digging in this hole, make sure we haven't dug anything up. Next slide, John. Thank you.
Hang on. There we are.
Here we go. And this is who Sky Valley is.
everybody. I'm Johnny Acorns. Yeah, that's not my real name. My real name is John Luker. I'm the president of the Sky Valley Volunteers. We plant oak trees. We are saving the world. Okay, so everybody grab an oak tree. And grab one of these plastic bars.
This will protect from ground squirrels, gophers. That'll protect from deer.
This is the cage that goes on top, and then that is secure rivets.
We're going to walk through the planting area and you'll see the damage. This was a canopy 3-4 years ago, and it was so gorgeous, and hopefully in 150 years it'll be that again. We're finding that those oak chips especially help the trees grow because that's nutrient.
Everybody spread of acorns and take care of their own little trees, you know?
Yeah, Josh, here, you can write grandma's name on that one, or we'll put it on this one.
Well, you know what? They'll grow their own way anyway.
These kids are the future. They're what's going to save this planet. It's so nice to see that age group getting involved in environmental work.
We belong to the Kiwanis. We're helping the world by planting one tree at a time.
I'll add the water.
Teaching our kids at a young age, this is not all about toys, that there's something they can do for nature.
I will never see the forest that I'm planting grow to maturity. My grandchildren might not see it at maturity, but somebody will.
That was great.
So we are the Sky Valley Volunteers, and if you want to see that video without the glitches because of the, I don't know, the bandwidth or whatever, you can go to skyvalleyvolunteers.org, and it is on our website. So you can also become involved with us. Where are we working now? We've planted over 500 trees. We're working in Dayton Canyon, in West Hills, Sage Ranch Park, up at the top of Woolsey Canyon. Bridle Path, the Homeowners Association is in West Simi Valley, Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park, up at Sky Valley at the Santa Susana Field Lab site in the Southern Buffer Zone. We've had individual homeowners pick up trees from us. You can get trees from us. We've had over 50 people already pick up trees and plant them in their own yards or in areas where they've had permission to plant them. We are also working with the Department of Water and Power at the Chatsworth Nature Preserve. We have not planted trees there yet. We are hoping to in the future. Sharon Shanghai, who is one of our volunteers and has another project under Save Chatsworth called Herp Connection, she has been organizing the Earth Day events in April out at the Chatsworth Nature Preserve for the last number of years. Sky Valley Volunteers and Santa Susana Mountain Park Association have been assisting her in the last few years. And so we've had a chance to be out there in April, maybe not this year because of COVID, but in future years we will be back there. Also, John and I, and sometimes some of our volunteers, participate in an annual tree survey that we do out there in the Nature Preserve every December. And we'll be talking more about that in just a little while. John, thank you. Now, we are called citizen scientists by many groups. The organizations that we're working with, Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, MRCA, the Boeing Company. The gentleman in the picture is the person that we report to when we are out at the Boeing Company up at Santa Susana Field Lab. Bridle Path Homeowners Association, Department of Parks and Recreation, state parks. And as I mentioned earlier, we've been working with the Resource Conservation District on the bug study phase 1 The bug study phase 2 is coming up, it will also be including LA County. And we'll talk more about if you're interested in maybe participating in that. We will be out in the field doing observations. And if we come across what looks like invasive shot hole borer, we will have methodology to document that and turn that information in. Next one, John. One of the greatest things that has come out of this, beyond planting trees and being a part of trying to save the planet, is the community that we've developed. It's been just phenomenal. John leads hikes regularly. He's led hikes many years now, twice a year up at the Santa Susana Field Lab on their Earth Day. And we lead hikes in the Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. Every time we're out leading a hike, we talk about what we do. And what's so amazing is people are really taking interest. We have probably 15 or so active volunteers, and probably double that number of people who come in on periodic events, and they help us out. They are the most wonderful people in the world. We're all volunteers. John is, I am. Nobody earns a penny. We do this for the love of it. And these are some of the most fantastic people we've ever encountered in our lives.
I love it. That is so cool.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. John, you're on.
Okay, so this picture is pretty evocative. Why do we call it Sky Valley? That's overlooking Dayton Canyon, and in the distance you can see the Chatsworth Nature Preserve. So you get an idea how vast this area up here is. It's about 15,000 acres. Now, I like to say to the people that volunteer with us that I've changed the world. You know, arguably this place is a little bit cleaner and a little bit safer because I came through. You can do it too. It's really not that hard. One of the things we're trying to do is take the partnerships that we're developing and leverage them into political influence. What changes things? Laws. And who writes laws? Well, lawmakers, legislators, politicians. That means politics plays a huge part in these things. Did you know that 3 women created the National Recreation Area in the Santa Monica Mountains? Jill Swift, Sue Nelson, and Margot Fior wrote the enabling legislation that created that unit of the National Park Service. That's astounding. What's coming up right now is the rim of the valley. This is comparable, but on a much larger scale. This is probably the most important legislation that's going through Congress for environmental work in our neighborhood in the last 50 years. The rim of the valley would enlarge the existing national recreation area for the Santa Monica Mountains to include all the mountain ranges surrounding the San Fernando Valley. The SSMPA served as consultants on the original resource study and on the enabling legislation. The bill authorizing the expansion is working its way through Congress right now. It's in committees, it's out of the House, it's in the Senate. If any of you live in the Santa Clarita area, and Mike Garcia is your representative in that area, contact him and tell him that you like Rim of the Valley. The more people he hears from that say that, the better the chances are that this thing will get passed. The Chatsworth Nature Preserve is another area where we are getting increasing amounts of influence. This place is sublime. This is pretty much my front yard. It's what I look at every morning when I look out the window. And it is one of the most amazing 1,200 acres. This is in Los Angeles. People just can't believe it. We've been working with DWP for several years now on the Earth Day celebration. We also annually conduct an assessment of the trees in the preserve. We participate in our survey alongside Audubon and the Herp Connection and their annual surveys. DWP actually listens to us. they take the information we give them, they digest it for a while, and they've actually been acting on some of our suggestions. Communication with the properties manager at DWP. She is very wonderful. She listens to everything, and she's very serious when it comes to taking our advice. I see a really good future for this place. Keep your fingers crossed, everyone. Now, this wildlife crossing over the 101 freeway is really critical. This is being put together by the National Wildlife Federation and Save LA Cougars. The price tag for getting mountain lions across that freeway at this point is $87 million. I just talked to Beth Pratt. She's the woman who's the fundraiser for the National Wildlife Federation. I actually texted her back and forth about 20 minutes ago. She says so far they've raised $18 million, and if they continue to hit their fundraising targets, they're going to start breaking ground on this in November. That is really, really good news. This habitat linkage, the habitat linkage we're worried about, would be anchored on the south by this access bridge for wildlife, and it's protected to the north by the Sky Valley National Monument. Now, without this bridge and without the protections that we're hoping we can get engaged in this area, mountain lions will become extinct in the Santa Monica Mountains within 50 years. That's the estimate at this point. Now, the Sky Valley National Monument is the site of the old Rocketdyne facility. It's kind of a controversial place. After years of rocket testing and nuclear testing, it does need to be cleaned up. But the cleanup could actually enhance the environment up there. This area can be four things. It can be part of the world's largest urban nature preserve. The Chatsworth Nature Preserve is 1,200 acres. The Southern Buffer Zone at SSFL, where we work, is 1,100 acres. There's almost 1,000 acres of contiguous property between the two. That could form a fenced-off nature preserve that's reserved for wildlife. People don't get to go in there unless they've got a good reason, but everybody with a good reason gets to go in there. Think of an open-air university where students go to study wildlife, natural systems, habitat restoration. This would be a win for so many different reasons. This is smack dab in the middle of the Rim of the Valley, corridor. The Rim of the Valley Trail will likely go through this place when it gets built. Area 2, which is owned by NASA, and it has all of the test stands that are still existing on it. That could become a monument to the genius of American engineering. The machines they used here got us off this planet and onto another heavenly body. Every rocket engine that lifted Americans into outer space was tested at this facility. That test stand that's pictured here, they put a second stage Saturn V booster in and lit it off. 3 million pounds of thrust. It didn't tear itself apart, and that booster, I believe, carried Apollo 14 to the moon. It's a stone's throw away from this cave. This cave is one of the most important archaeological sites west of the Mississippi. It's the Burro Flats Painted Cave. It is a solar observatory. Every year on the winter solstice, a light dagger forms when the first ray of light from the rising sun hits the back end of that cave. It lights up a particular pictograph. The people who lived here used this to tell them what time of year it was. Okay, this is the solstice. Days are going to get longer. It's going to get warmer. Now there's going to be more acorns. We're going to have a bumper crop. They use this to tell the seasons and know if they were going to be able to eat. The co-location of this prehistoric observatory and machines that got the human race off the planet transcend local importance to the state of California, or even importance to the United States. This is about a seminal event in the history of mankind. And as such, it has all the qualifications to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Given the importance of these four things, it would be really a bad idea to turn your back on this place. If you'd like to know more about the Santa Susana Field Lab, contact me offline and we can talk about it. I've been involved in the cleanup over here for 16 years. And personally, what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a slew of lawsuits in the next couple of years, and eventually a judge will decide. A judge will decide how this is to be cleaned up. And in about 10 years, then we'll be talking seriously about the National Monument. Now, the future of Sky Valley volunteers is actually pretty rich. We're hoping our organization can continue to serve our community in the future. We see ourselves evolving to become a cooperating agency, much like the agency we created in the local state park. We can become the go-to for habitat preservation, restoration, and interpretation for private landholders and local parks on this stretch of mountainside. In 2009, the state of California ran out of money. They were going to close 70 state parks and sell off the land. Members of the SSMPA board got to stand up in front of a legislative hearing, and we said that we could put together a volunteer organization if the state had to dump this property. We could do the work paying staff did, and they called our bluff, and we've done it. 11 years later, our organization is still going strong. The best thing we did is set up our education program. We bring in third grade classes from Title I schools. And in many cases, this is the only field trip these kids get in the course of the year. We've adjusted our education program there to coincide with LAUSD's history program for third grade. It works really well. We do graffiti removal, trash cleanup. We plant oak trees on the properties. It's really been a win-win for both the state and our community. Wendy?
Okay, so what can you do? You're probably asking yourself, how can I get involved? I mean, we've just got you riveted, right? Okay, so what can you do? You can volunteer. You can volunteer with us. You can be part of our watering crew. You can volunteer if you're interested in the invasive shot-hole borer and participating in that study. There's a training coming up pretty soon. Volunteer for something. Use your sweat equity. Okay, get out there. There's organizations all over the place that probably can use some help. There's a new one starting up. One of our volunteers in the state park is Jill Mather, and she has started an organization called Volunteering Cleaning Communities, BCC, Volunteering Cleaning Communities. She's doing a fabulous job of rounding up people and having people help clean up the cities. Okay, maybe your town needs some cleanup. She's the one to contact. But there are so many environmental organizations out there. Let's see. So coming back to us, when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. Okay, but you can do it now too. And that's what we are doing. We are planting trees now. We get out there, our watering team, our planting team is out there. You saw in the video, we've had big events where we've had 50 to 100 people come out. Probably not this year, unfortunately, due to COVID, but next year we'll be back doing that. But we are looking for volunteers who want to come out and water. The lower picture, that's our team just a couple of weeks ago when we were doing a tree planting out at Dayton Canyon. We have trees available. If you want a tree, we can give you a tree if you have a place to plant it. We do tribute trees. We've done tributes for people who are alive, for people who have passed away, for special occasions. You want to give a gift to your mom? Come out and plant a tree. We'll take pictures. Bring mom out. She can plant the tree. Anything you want to do, as long as we can get some trees into the ground, we would love it. So come and volunteer somewhere. Okay, John, thanks. Next slide. Okay, how did we get funded? All right, it started up with LA County Supervisor, 5th District, Catherine Barger. She loved what we were doing. She loved it so much, she gave us $10,000 to get us going. And we are so grateful to Catherine for this. That got us completely launched into our first couple of years. It was fantastic. We received bequests. We were given our first truck. We were given the money for our first truck. We went out and purchased that. We were able to build our second shade house with our bequests. We've received smaller grants, anywhere from $2,500 all the way down to $1,000, $500. And we receive donations from people just like you. We've been given, on Giving Tuesday, the one that we had just this last December, Giving Tuesday, we raised $2,500. That gave us enough funding added to what we had left in the bank. We've got our first half of the year all funded. So, we are getting money. We don't need a lot to keep us going, but donations are gratefully received. Next. A lot of people to thank. We have a lot of people to thank for helping us get going. Clark Stevens and Rosie Daggett at the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains. Kamara Sams, who is now the lead up at Boeing, and Paul Costa, Santa Susana Field Lab up at Sky Valley. Paul Edelman and Tim Miller from MRCA. Helen Oliveris from the Department of Water and Power. Nick Montano, Chatsworth, Kiwanis. He got us set up with our first watering tank. Barbara Tejada, California State Parks and Recreation. Jack Smith, who has been so named Tree Daddy in an article recently written about him. He's from Tree People. Catherine Barger, of course, we love her. And all the directors and volunteers from Save Chatsworth, Sky Valley Volunteers, Herp Connection, and SSMPA, Santa Susana Mountain Park Association. We're deeply grateful to all of you for all of your help. So thank you for getting us going.
Woo!
And that's pretty much it. If you want to contact us, if you're interested in volunteering, if you're interested in donating to our little endeavor here, this is the contact information. Give us a call or drop us an email. That's pretty much what we've got, Dana. So there you go.
I love it. Awesome. Awesome. So at this point, we will ask the people in the audience if anyone has any questions. So if you have a question, throw it into the chat and we will ask it. And in the meantime, of course, I have some questions. So I am wondering, where are you getting the oaks from? Are you collecting the acorns on the property and then starting you have a little tree nursery going somewhere?
That's a great question. John, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, traditionally we start in September and we have acorn gathering in the community. Kids really dig this. There's a process called stratification where you get the acorns basically germinated and starting to grow. We have potting parties where we invite the public to come out and put them into 1-gallon pots. And then a couple months later, hopefully in the middle of a rainy season, if we get any rain, we take these trees up into the mountains and plant them where we collected the acorns. Everything we planted at Santa Susana Field Lab came from acorns at Santa Susana Field Lab. Same thing with Sage Ranch, same thing with the properties around the West Valley. We try to match the acorns with the habitat that we're putting the trees into.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I love that. That is really cool. And then you have people watering these trees twice a week. Is that what you said?
Go, Wendy.
Okay, yes, we do. As I mentioned earlier, we have this amazing community that we found, the volunteers. And before COVID, we were watering up at the Santa Susana Field Lab twice a week because we have 3 forests planted up there. We were also watering at Sage Ranch, where we have one of our forests. So that was one of the other days. And then on the 4th day at Dayton Canyon, we do have a forest out at Bridle Path, HOA, Homeowners Association. And we have a volunteer who's taken the lead out there. We went out and helped them plant the trees, and they are watering the trees, the residents that live out there at Bridle Path. But our volunteers come out whenever they're available, anywhere from 1 to 4 days a week, depending on what they would like to do. We get out there for a couple hours in the mornings and we water trees. We have 2 trucks, we have 2 water tanks, we have probably 25 buckets, the 5-gallon buckets that we got from Lowe's, and we get out there and we go water the trees. It's a lot of fun. It's great community, a wonderful social time, and everybody's smiling the whole time and building muscles.
It's really important after you put the trees in the ground it takes a couple of years for their root system to develop to the point where they can live on their own. I don't know if you guys remember, but I guess it was 3, maybe 4 years ago now, there was a scorching heat wave that rolled through here. My yard was over 118 degrees for 3 days straight. The hottest it got was 122, and I stuck my barbecue thermometer into the dirt. It said 135. That is incompatible with any kind of life. It gets like that up here in the summer now. So we have found that during the summertime, especially, each one of these trees has to get 2 gallons of water a week. After about 2 to 3 years, we, wean them off of our water, and hopefully they survive. It's tough out there. It really is.
And how many years has this been going on?
4 years now.
Wow, that is so much work, but it is such a great cause.
Oh, it's so much fun. And at the end of the day, everybody comes home, and they all come home to their little contaminated room, and they say, well, at least today for a while I did something important, and everybody just has such a good time. We go up there first crack of dawn. We get to watch the sunrise over these beautiful mountains, and it's just that being out there doing something productive for a couple hours.
Yeah, I love tree people, by the way. Can I just say that? Tree people?
Oh, they're my pals.
They're wonderful.
They're wonderful. They actually gave us some really good advice at the start on how to go about this. Without them, we wouldn't be what we are today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really like them as well. All right, so I was going to ask you how you got started and what your upcoming projects were and how people could get involved. But of course, you answered all of those questions. I have another question that might be more interesting. So the whole time that I've known you guys, you've known each other. So you've known each other for a long time. And I'm guessing that it was before the Sky Valley definitely before the Sky Valley Volunteers, maybe before the SSMPA volunteers. How did you meet?
Oh, okay. Well, that's very interesting. I used to work for Valley Cultural Center. They did the concerts in the park in Woodland Hills. And I started a program out there many years ago called Community Connections. And that's where we brought a nonprofit out each week and let them have a 2-minute spot before the concert started. And we let them talk about who they are and what they did, because we had an audience anywhere from 3,500 people to 10,000 people, depending on who was the act for that night. And I had met Bob Dagger, who's on both boards, on the Santa Susana Mountain Park Association board and also on the foundation board. And I had met him at a meeting locally, and we started chatting, and he roped me into SSMPA, at least teaching me about it. And so they were one of the groups I brought out. And because John's such a great spokesman, he was the one who was coming out on stage and talking about SSMPA. And that's where we first met. And that's where I first learned he has a coffee addiction, because he's all, where's the coffee? Where's the coffee? And we went walking around to the vendors to find him a cup of coffee. But that's how we first met. And that was, oh my goodness, that was back in 2012, I believe.
So how long has the SSMPA been around?
Ooh, SSMPA's been.
Yes.
Is he freezing? What's happening there?
Did you say 1970?
I believe it was 1970. Jan Hinkston, who was an elementary school teacher, wanted to save the land out here in the Santa Susana Mountains, or the Simi Hills. And she's the one who formed Santa Susana Mountain Park Association. And they were responsible for, as John said, pretty much saving that area from development. It became a park. John, you know more details than I do about that.
Yeah, Jan Hinkston was one of the contemporaries of Jill Swift and Sue Nelson in the Santa Monica Mountains. She saw some development plans for the hills around here in 1970, and she said, we got to do something about this. And like I say, this is somebody going out and single-handedly changing the world. She had through her force of personality, basically she raised the money to buy the land that eventually became Santa Susana Pass State Historic Park. The Devil's Slide stagecoach trail, there's so many resources in this park, it's ridiculous. Anyway, the SSMPA was formed as the political arm to make this thing happen. It took until 1992, but over that 22 years, she was the one that raised the money and changed the world. That was the start of SSMPA. Jan died in the 1990s, I believe. And the thing that she created that is really the most radical thing is the SSMPA. She's been dead for 20 years and her organization is still doing what she wants it to do. I think that's a pretty good legacy and a good testament for somebody's abilities. So Wendi and I try to emulate her in that the Sky Valley Volunteers is not planning to be just a flash in the pan or something that is our personal toy. I'm hoping this thing lasts long into my sons and my grandsons. You know, organizations like ours and are the lifeblood of these communities. I like to say that our community is different here. It's like back in the days of the cowboys when the desperados come, we circle the wagons. Only now the desperados don't have black hats and Winchesters. They wear Armani and they have briefcases. So that's what that's what we're dealing with now. But yeah, we're sort of standing on the shoulders of all these women.
I love it. Oh my goodness, how inspiring. This is so what an inspirational interview this has been. I'm ready to go plant an oak tree with Johnny Acorn and friends. I love that. I do love that. I think I might have to call you that every time I see you. Johnny Acorn.
Well, you know, Johnny Appleseed was a real guy, okay? And I know for a fact, nobody is going to know who John Luker is in 150 years, but they may still be talking about that crazy old loon ball that went up here and planted oak trees all over these mountains, you know? Johnny Acorn might still have a legacy out there. We'll see.
Do you juggle the acorns too?
Oh, good God, yes.
That's for the kids program, right?
Yeah.
Acorn Juggling 101. I love it. All right. Well, I really appreciate your time tonight. It doesn't look like we have any questions from the audience. I think they must feel like you covered it pretty thoroughly. So I'm just gonna say thank you to everyone for coming out tonight to watch us, and thank you to you guys for you guys. I shouldn't say you guys. Thanks to both of you for coming out this evening and spending your time with us. We really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
And just thank you to everyone. If you liked this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and like it. And if you think this was an interesting program, please subscribe, because then you will be alerted when we're having our live programs like this, which is not like too terribly often. So hopefully it won't bother you. But anyway, we are Turanga Ranch, and we are always bringing exciting wildlife programming to you. And you can look for our other programs. They're already on our YouTube channel. And again, I'm just going to say thank you so much for coming out tonight and for joining us. And yeah, we can't wait to see you again next time. And so this will just end in a minute, and I will press end stream. Then we will be done.
We are done.
Okay.